Hello and welcome to Eastern Marshlands, an evening with comrades. I'm your host Dipdap, here with Theo
Ayo!
and Pac-Man.
G'day, big ups for bioterrorism.
Infect the Queen with COVID-19.
Yeah.
Hashtag trending.
I did start that, didn't I?
Yeah.
Hashtag trending. Make it trending. Trend that hashtag. Infect the Queen with COVID-19.
I'd
Damn.
like to start off with my first statement of the night. Fuck Joe Biden and fuck the Democratic Party. They don't actually care about women.
Yeah, well, we knew this already.
Right. But most Democrats think it's just the Russians, as usual.
Oh, you know who it is.
I mean, nowadays it's the Chinese, not the Russians.
No, they still think it's the Russians.
Oh, that's amazing.
All right.
I mean,
so,
we can blame the Russians for everything, including the kung fu.
Yeah.
Now, let's start off with the virus, in which we now have worldwide, according to worldmeters.info, 593,316 cases. That's both.
Oh my god, it went up. It went up by 100,000 in a day.
Yeah.
Oh my lord.
Oh my god. And right now.
Hey guys. Are you ready for the revolution? Because guess what? It's ready for you!
Posada said nuclear war, more like a bio war.
Hasadism is not necessarily strictly about nuclear war. It's about any form of cataclysmic event that destroys the global fabric of society.
Yes.
The prerequisite for communism is not living in a society.
Alright, so.
We might get some of my... Because I did just spread the link to the stream in a server that's not fully made up of communists, so we might get some uninitiated folks watching.
Ooh.
Ooh.
Well, the United States has surpassed 100,000 cases, with New York having close to half of those cases. Yeah, this is getting fucked.
Comparatively, let me actually check how many people have it in Austria. No, that's
7,657.
yeah, which hasn't. Hold on.
You went up by about 750 today.
Yes, which is actually
Australia is averaging about
Which is-
300 a day.
which is actually less than it went up by yesterday. So that's interesting. Because yesterday it went up by 810, I think.
The curve was seeming to flatten. It is no longer flattening. They're saying that
In the
New
US,
York...
you mean?
Yeah, in the US. New York is going to run out of medical supplies in a couple days.
A bunch of factories in both in Austria and in like southern Germany specifically, have stopped producing cars and metalwork and have now switched to producing medical equipment.
Oh god.
We are the competent governments are like going full fucking not war economy obviously, but they're fucking like going ham on actually using emergency powers and telling industry, all right, fuck your profit, we need fucking medical supply now, and you're gonna do it basically for free.
Yeah.
Which
That's the thing that's crazy. Like, and you contrast that with America. Hey, we found out we could. Our ventilators are breaking down. We found out we could 3D print a part for it to help it keep running. No, you get sued.
No, that is illegal. I first thought of the concept of a fan, and thus every person who says the word fan should pay me their dick.
Remember that the company that owns the ventilators is threatening to sue Italian people for 3D printing the pieces because they own the fucking copyright to it. That being said, fuck copyright.
Yeah, for real. As an anime content creator, that speaks to me on a spiritual fucking level. What really
It's not
fucks
a
me
real
off.
thing. It's not a real thing. Like, that's what you have to realize.
What
And you're
really,
not-
really fucks me off. I'll tell you what
Um,
really fucks me off.
There's
It's the guy who's the company who's racing to produce the test kits for COVID-19. They're trying to fucking patent it.
Yes, and this is actually quite funny because the European Health Commission has said that if they were to patent it, they would just ignore the patent and just produce it anyway.
Now, remember, I think that a lot of people during this time are falling into conspiracy. Try not to fall into fucking conspiracy thought here. It's actively dangerous, and in my research, it often leads to very reactionary thinking.
Yeah, it does.
So last week they reported that there were 6 strains. There's now 8 strains of the virus. And with Donald Trump and the American government now saying that they want to reopen the economy by Easter, they want to kill people, basically. And don't think...
Yeah, that will implode the country. It will implode.
Now, don't think... I want everyone who listens to this to know this, that when we're talking about them saying people will die, they are actively saying people will die. They're not ignoring it. And when they say that, oh, these people die, they're not making up some abstract number. They mean you. They mean if the government loses, if people lose less money, then you can die and they won't give a fuck.
Mm-hmm.
And to all the conservatives that are saying, yeah, go with it, I want them to go talk to their grandmother and their mother and say, I want you to die so that fucking whoever can lose less of their stock money. Because that's the actual thing that's happening. It's
now, I know it's blasphemy to quote liberal grandpa Bernie Sanders, but I think he was right when he said in Congress that where he basically went on a rant that this is bullshit, and that these people couldn't live with the thought of fucking someone under earning getting a bit more on their paychecks and benefits, but they have no problem shuffling out billions upon billions of dollars to bail out companies that can't literally cannot survive not having steady income for less than a week.
The U.S. Federal Reserve, I think I said this last week, but in 30 days they spent $30 trillion.
Oh yeah, but healthcare is.
Do you know how much healthcare was said to be cost in 10 years?
Was it 2.8 trillion? What's
I think in 10 years, 10 trillion maximum.
So they just spent.
Those people aren't rich, but those people aren't rich.
Right. They spent 30 years of universal healthcare basically in a month to save, trust fund kids money.
Cause guess what, guys? Money is fake.
Money's fake, and
it doesn't mean anything. We can just.
The Federal Reserve doesn't give a fuck about you. The U.S. government doesn't give a fuck about you. They only care about their stockholders and their rich people. Yeah, fuck the poor, red line go up. As Zordon said in the chat. Recently, when they said they were going to kill people.
To misquote something that Pac might recognize here, abandon reason, know only capitalism.
You know that... Do you know that thing in the Bible? I'm using this as a metaphor, basically. It's like a thing. When in Exodus, they had the people worshiping that bull god. You know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
This is what they're doing with the bull market. They're willing to let people die for it. Now, the thing that's coming along with this is that the economy went up because they were like, oh, we don't want bear market, let's have people die. So in their fucking idolatry to the great old fucking bull, they're willing to let I think up to 3 million people die, right?
Yeah, but you see, those are mostly poor people, so it's fine.
Mm-hmm. And the other thing is this. Their gambit for this didn't last long because the line went down again today.
Yeah, because
almost 5%.
Because they didn't look like I'm assuming they did look at Italy, but they just refused to comprehend the lesson learned there. If nobody can work, right? Because everyone's too fucking sick to work. It doesn't fucking matter how bad how stable, quote unquote, your economy is, because at that point it will collapse anyway.
Yes, as Philip B in the chat said, praise Moloch.
Yeah.
Praise be to Moloch, the god of money. The god of the line. The line has been pleased.
Yeah.
All praise the line.
It is a literal blood sacrifice. It's literally like going, yeah.
Abandon reason. No,
only the economy.
Abandon reason. No, only money. The money is our world's like Dune spice.
Oh, absolutely.
He who knows the spice knows.
I mean, that was kind of the metaphor, so
yeah.
That's
the spice will flow.
The blood will flow for the line to go up.
Blood for the line god.
Blood for the line god.
Stocks for the stock throne.
Yeah. More
we out here worshipping Mammon, as Brigadier General Strike said.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just waiting for some fucking Wall Street guys to just paint themselves red and grab a giant axe and then charge forward. Line go down! Line go up!
Line go down! More lines for the line throne. We're talking about cocaine, right?
So now that Prince Charles has it, and he was around the Queen for over a week, infect the Queen with COVID-19. Infect the Queen with COVID-19.
We pray for this every night, but into the British monarchy, who knows?
Wouldn't it be fucking hilarious if all of them fucking get it and die, and then all of a sudden Harry, who's just been fucked off from them, is like, oh shit, it's me.
I thought you were gonna say the little fucking 2-year-old kid, and it'd be fucking the end of the Qing Empire in China.
Does that mean we're gonna get a British warlord period?
Please.
Oh my god.
Where we have the fucking Cornwall clique or something.
Where and then we
Jacob Rees-Mogg on a horse, with a sword.
Of course the
wow.
Of course the fucking what is it? The ones that would be Zhang Chong are in fucking Scotland.
Does that mean that the Germans are the Manchus?
Yeah.
No. The Germans are the Japanese. They're gonna come in and install their own fucking.
But my comparison was because the Queen is just a German noble.
Yeah.
So the Empire's ruled by this is an actual opinion a lot of reactionaries in Britain hold, and it's funny.
That she's just a German noble.
Yeah, that the glorious British kingdom has been corrupted by the fucking
Der ewige Deutsche.
the Hun. The Huns have corrupted us, and that's why Britain is collapsing, and not because of bad political decisions for the past 60 years.
Der ewige Deutsche.
That's an unironic position they hold, and it's funny.
God.
Reactionaries are so fucking stupid.
I think the funniest story I have regarding that is a friend of mine from Trier went to a museum in England, the Imperial War Museum, and they were doing the tour. They were doing the tour, and like everyone was sort of walking around through this museum, and like the tour guide is talking about it, and like, here is the east wing of the museum in which we keep this, tank or whatever it is. I can't remember what it was. And it's like, the east wing of this museum had to be rebuilt in the 1950s because in 1944 a V1 rocket smacked into it, and my friend just calls out from the back of the tour group, "Sorry." The funniest fucking shit I've ever heard. And all of the people looked around at him. They didn't even laugh. It was obviously a joke. They just sort of looked at him. I'm like, are people still that butthurt? I'm like, dude, fucking seriously.
The Anglo.
Oh my god. The eternal Anglo. The eternal fucking Anglo.
Alright,
British people are stupid.
Alright, so I guess we can move on to the next topic.
Central Europe?
Yeah, before that, I want to have our little thing. So, if you donate to Eastern Marshlands, then you get this little cool thing in the bottom and you keep TK Jones alive.
Yeah, literally. Where is he? He hasn't been on Evening with Comrades for like 3 weeks now. 4 weeks now?
TK, he is sick.
This is interesting. Solon saying something in the chat.
Hmm?
You all know I'm a truck driver. I'm still out on the road no matter, but they are not paying Harvard pay because of reasons. Yeah.
Oh god.
They're not paying hazard pay.
Yeah.
Because you're in a truck, mate. It's not hazardous. I mean,
Yeah, guys, it's fine.
You're having to carry unknown goods and go meet strange people and offload things and
In places where they could be infected.
Yeah.
But
The difference,
yeah, but
the difference between a truck driver and a sex worker aren't that big.
no, not really.
but
And they do a lot of business with each other, actually, as point of sorry. God damn it.
Backman!
It's a healthy industrial relation. What's your problem? No, it's fine. Anyway.
Unionized brothels! Anyway, moving on.
The next thing is that you can listen to Eastern Marshlands on Spotify, SoundCloud, and YouTube. In which case, use your one of choice, which YouTube is where we stream for all of those on SoundCloud or Spotify. And you can go back and basically listen to the VODs on either of those platforms.
Why is it?
And also, we have a Patreon, if you would like,
Really?
and we have,
We do.
We do? Yeah, we do.
It's not in the description if that's what you mean, by the way.
But we got a Patreon, in which case...
Oh, though it is. It is. I'm just blind.
In which case, you can get cool goodies, like Soviet trinkets from Eugene. Yeah. But now, we move on to the next topic, which is Central Europe.
Yeah, so... I'm literally, like, in the... Well, me and Königsmark would be, but Königsmark isn't here, so I will have to take this over for him as well. It's, like, the epicenters of, like, infection. Obviously, Italy. And then there are the Germans. And the Germans, well, they're basically killing themselves. So, the German government is basically faking all of its, test results, and it's like making positive results like disappear to like fudge the numbers.
Mm-hmm. So are we in the U.S.
Yeah. There are people who are held in quarantine indefinitely, and they aren't told about their condition.
Zordon got us $10.
Huge.
Number
no.
one EML stan.
Yeah. Fuck. No, but essentially it's fucking... sorry, I spaced out there. So the German federal government has basically forbidden its like state governments from doing anything really. You basically enact a quarantine or tell people not to go outside. The government will basically yell at you, and like it's apparently in an effort to protect the economy. But the thing is, within a week, Germany will have reached the level that Italy has reached, where too many people are sick to even keep the economy like up and running, and the Bavarians are at this point like just straight up ignoring edicts from Berlin. They're just doing their own thing.
Time for the Bavarian separatist movement to really get going again.
This might kick off a lot of political turmoil.
Bavarian separatists return!
For real. So we in Austria are thinking about closing the border to Germany. Because, let me get the quote from our Minister of Health up. The German government has shown itself to be unrelying in combating the spread of this pandemic. And we do not consider them a safe source of import as long as this crisis is ongoing.
Isn't the German government still getting really angry at the Austrian government?
Yes, they are, because it's like, no, you're going to ruin both of our economies, and to which our government at this point is basically saying, yeah, but we'll be alive. which is funny.
How do you think the German government would handle this if it was a more deadly disease?
I don't fucking know. Well, the thing is, for all intents and purposes, it is. Like, almost 1 million people, if they don't do anything, around 1 million people in Germany will die.
Oh, dear fucking god.
Which, that's obviously a bit of pessimistic, but between 500,000 and...
Speaking of millions...
That doesn't matter, you know?
Speaking of millions for a second, I want to butt in and say 3.3 million people in the United States applied for unemployment last week. This is more than it's ever been, both in number and percentage of the population.
Yeah, it's bad. It's bad.
It's gonna keep rising, too.
But here is where our government... the parliament's weird right now, because the far right's shifting further and further left, further right, and everyone else is just, like, leaning hard left right now. It's kind of interesting. So our conservative government has put out they've put out an eviction stopper like a week ago, and now a bill is currently going through Parliament, proposed by the Greens, who are the coalition partner of the Conservatives. So this might go through. It is a rent stop, which means that until this health crisis is over, no rent can be demanded. Not just you can't evict people, you cannot demand rent while people are unable to work. It's just, yeah.
Holy shit.
Yeah. And imagine, like, what do you think would happen if you told this to, like, you know, your American conservatives? What do you think?
Communist. Communist.
Yeah. But this is like the thing about like our mindset in states of like in a state of emergency. Your political alignment doesn't matter to us. It's just right. We got something to do. Let's just fucking do it. Let's get it over with. And the government is also like ordering like not the closure of factories, but is ordering factories to stop producing cars and other like luxury goods and metalwork and start producing medical equipment because we're going to fucking need it.
Right.
And forcing them to basically produce it for like minimum pay, basically.
And this is why New York is going to have a medical shortage this week. And I want to make it very clear to everyone, when we're talking about like that kind of thing, like we're paying them little. Let's talk about the Cubans for a second, because I know that Twitter MLs love to fucking suck Cuba's dick.
I mean, I like to as well.
Remember that Cuban doctors are paid less than fucking poverty wages to go around the world and risk their lives?
Yeah.
They're quite literally paid like next to nothing. It's more than anything a way to gain Cuban soft power in the international sphere. It's not about helping people.
Yeah.
It's about getting soft political power. But continue.
Yeah. So I just want to throw out there that this is the way that you have to go about these sorts of things, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is a pandemic. You can't fucking like right now. All of your fucking fancy ass. The economy doesn't matter. That's basically the conclusion that the conservative, want to stress that, government has come to. The economy doesn't matter right now. This is a pandemic, right? We can worry about what we're spending for this after we're no longer in the threat of dying. That's basically
Right.
the policy that they have adopted. And the German government was really mad at them for that, because we're not just a lot of these factories that we're forcing to produce medical equipment, basically. A lot of those are German owned. And that's causing a lot of friction. Oh, and not to mention that the European Health Commission has said that, if someone were to, invent, say, a vaccine or something and then patent it and try to sell it, the European Health Commission has said that they're just going to ignore the patent and, bootleg it.
Owned. That has entered my vocabulary more and more as it goes on. Just owned.
Because this really shows that all of capitalists don't have power unless we give it to them.
Yeah. It's the whole reification thing. You only give people power. People only have power that you give them.
Yeah. And intellectual property is bullshit.
It's
right?
not real.
Yeah. It's literally just there because the state enforces it, and the second that the state stops enforcing it, I mean, what are they gonna do?
But I want to also say this. Once this is over, don't give them that power back, because the way that Weber puts it now, I hate that I've had to bring him up twice today, but when he talks about rational legal power, he kind of understands this, that if you give it power sometimes and not others, you're more or less giving the ones you give power more power by saying that it's fine then.
Yeah.
Don't give them the power back.
Speaking of powers, we all know that the British government has issued their emergency powers and has basically said, oh, they're going to last for 2 years. Right. Mm-hmm. So our friend Viktor Orban in Hungary has said that and been like, fuck it, you're all a bunch of losers. I'm going to double that. So here's what the Hungarian plan looks like. Still no quarantine, still no actual health things. Orban has dissolved the parliament, for one. There are no elections, right? No elections. Any local, any currently ongoing elections will not go through. And no public official can be replaced. Even if someone were to keel over and die, that post would just be vacant. No one will come to replace them. And so, how long? I want guesses from the chat. How long do you think these powers are set to last for?
Let's let them get those things in while the stream catches up.
Yeah.
What
do you think, Peter? What do you think?
How long these powers will last for?
Yeah, what do you think that they officially?
Officially, they're going to say until the crisis is over, but let's be real here. They're going to say that the crisis will never end.
All right, that's your guess?
All right, let's wait for the thing to catch up. Only Bro in the chat says forever. Let's wait for more to roll in, since we've got 9 viewers.
All right, forever. You are not wrong. The official...
1,000 years, forever.
So the official thing that the government has said, they have not put an upper limit on this, right? They just said we're going to have emergency powers. And there's a clause at the end of it, at the end of the quote unquote bill, it's not a bill, it's an executive order. The Hungarian government reserves the right to indefinitely extend these emergency powers after the health crisis has ended for a concern of national security.
Yeah, that's it right there. That's it right there. To quote Jean-Luc Picard, a matter of state security, the age-old cry of the oppressor. It's exactly in the interests of national security. I can justify anything. I can justify genocide because it's an interest of national security.
It gets better because they're going full mask off with this. Because essentially, you want to know what the official reasoning for that is?
What?
The official reasoning for that is that because the Hungarian government will do nothing, and they know they will do nothing, after this is over, people will riot, and they want to reserve the legal right to shoot them.
Mm-hmm.
Like, to put down riots. That's the actual official reasoning for why Orban has legislated these things that way. So Orban is going full mask off, and because they're still doing nothing, we're also closing the border to Hungary. Basically, it's like Orban is like turning around to his neighbors, like, "We're doing something. We're getting the authority back in the game," and we're like looking at him and going, "Okay, but you're still dirty. Goodbye."
Yeah, but why though?
So, see, and this is like, I think what can show you just how fucking like, we're all bureaucrats in Austria. Like, we follow protocol, and we need to find ways to abide the protocol. And we've said that if this were to last into an election season, we're going to just institute, like, a secure way of online voting. Like, that's literally what we said. We'd rather fucking sink millions of euros into developing something completely new rather than just abandon the democratic process. Because it's just protocol. It's what we gotta do, guys.
Mm-hmm.
Compared to, you know, it's strange. Like, I have a, like, our conservatives are strange, but that's because they're like, you know, Christian Democrats and not like, you know, like when Central European conservatism is a completely different caliber than American conservatism. American conservatism is just it's just fascism, guys. It's like
Proto.
Yeah, it's just like undirected fascism without ideological core leader. It's a cult of action. Over here it's just people who don't want to do anything. It's the opposite. It's like the opposite of a cult. It's a cult of inaction, really.
It's just, let's not change anything.
Yeah, and see, and this means we're gonna find a really creative way to basically continue living normally under these conditions without actually endangering ourselves.
The way I see it is this: American conservatives don't only want to keep things the same, they want to go back. The European ones, either the softer ones are like, let things change naturally but slowly, or they just want to keep things the way they are right now.
Yeah. And this is the thing, during time of crisis, it will, like, during a time of great turmoil and crisis, people, like, they can't stay in this cult of inaction, right? Because it doesn't make sense anymore.
Right.
But because currently, because they are paralyzed by poor leadership, all of the pull in the Austrian government is coming from the left and from, like, street organizations, aka a bunch of fucking anarchists in Vienna having fucking like, we set up basically like hospitals for homeless people in, like,
Right.
public land. And this is actually quite interesting. So there was a discussion about it in the parliament. Obviously, the far right was like, break it up. It's lawlessness is what they called it.
Mm-hmm.
The lawless rabble is the literal term they used. You want to know what the government did instead?
What?
The Green Party social minister was like, all right, we're going to send them doctors and funding
But
and, like, actual medical equipment so they don't, like, accidentally spread the infection.
holy shit.
The U.S. government would send in the National Guard and have them all shot.
Yeah. Well, but this is like
excuse me. Did you pay the royalties on that band-aid you're putting on that child? I'm sorry, you know how it goes.
Like, this is actually very, very interesting because the discussion that happened in the city council wasn't do we remove them or not. The discussion was how do we stop, like, these people from accidentally infecting themselves trying to help. And the conclusion they came to, well, send them the equipment to keep themselves safe.
Theo, only bro in the chat's asking, has Poland done anything similar to Hungary? I know the PSI is insanely corrupt.
I haven't heard anything. But the problem is there's, like, not a lot of news coming out of Poland these days because all of it is, like, swamped with the news from our neighbors because that's what really concerns us. We don't really have that big trade relations with Poland. Like, we have some things.
I mean, besides that last time 70 years ago.
No, shut up.
Sorry, couldn't help it.
Like, most of our news are coming out of, like, Italy, Germany, Hungary, you know, our neighbor countries, the people we have big trade relations to, people that border us, you know, things that directly concern us. That's where most of our news are on. Poland kind of flies under the radar there at the moment. I don't know what they're doing. I can look it up, honestly, if you give me a few moments.
All right. Well, in the meantime, while you do that, I'll go ahead and do the help us spiel before the next story, which is if you give Eastern Marshlands money, hey, you get that cool thing in the bottom, and if you give us money on Patreon,
you keep TK alive.
You keep TK alive, and if you give us money on Patreon, Eugene will send you cool Soviet pins.
Okay. There's massive, like, congestion because of, like, closed, like, ways. Hold on. Germany, is claiming... Hold on. Not a lot coming out. I just got shit about, like, bad traffic and...
I'll just check how many people in Poland real quick for you then.
Yeah. Can you check Germany as well? Because that's relevant.
Alright, I'll check those. In... statistics... I'm trying to get to the right page. Here we are.
Well,
by the way, it went up 2,000 from the beginning of the stream, by the way. But
in US, I assume.
Yes, mostly.
Okay.
Germany has the 5th largest number of confirmed cases, with 50,871, with nearly 7,000 added today.
Fuck me.
That is
That is ridiculous.
607 people per million. In Poland, they're much lower, with 1,389 confirmed cases and 168 today, and that's only 37 people per million. The largest per million is San Marino, which is like 6,000 per people.
Okay, I actually have something here from the Polish opposition.
Mm-hmm.
Then... So they're saying... Well, they're saying that there is a deliberate media blackout by the government, and they're not, like, reporting cases, and the quote is, the government doesn't give a shit about people. Or rather, doesn't care about people, but, you know.
There is a thing that I heard from someone in Russia where they said, if you go into the hospital and say, I have symptoms, they'll tell you, what the fuck are you doing here? Go home.
Yeah.
Yeah. Shit's fucked. Governments don't give a shit about you, and what's new? You're only.
I mean,
you're,
it is the Russians we're talking
No,
about.
I mean worldwide, you are only important to these governments insofar as you can produce commodities.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Because
you are
a commodity.
GDP.
You are a commodity. You're nothing else to them. They don't give a shit.
Yeah.
Um,
This isn't any different here, by the way.
and for
it's
sock
just
dems,
that,
like Bernie, you're a commodity that has worth. That's it.
yeah, it isn't any different here either. Just so we're clear on that. It's just, it's our protocol to protect things, and that's the only reason we're doing it, because it's proper protocol. We're a very Kafkaesque country.
Yeah.
Like, it's honestly some kind of, basically, if proper protocol told them to just, like, hang, like, all the fucking big industrialists, they do it. Like, they wouldn't agree with it, but they do it because, you know, it's just what they gotta do. It's what the book said.
The book said it.
Yeah. That's like, that's the worst part of my country, but it's also the part that keeps it from just rapidly descending into fascism.
They're just like legal, like realists.
Yeah, and as I said, it's a cult of inaction. It's like the opposite of, you know, fascism. It's just the glorification of stagnation.
Mm-hmm.
Social stagnation, that is. They still worship the economy and all that.
It's less of what fascism is then, because fascism is like national rejuvenation, all that bullshit.
Yeah, and that's like why we don't like just, because there are definitely some very, very reactionary people in power, but it's just they worship the status quo because that's just kind of what they're. Like, they don't even have reasons for why. It's just, well, that's what I'm supposed to do.
I don't like change.
Yeah, and it's hard to describe, honestly. Interesting, but very difficult to describe.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, say again?
Tell me coal's in profit.
Why?
What would have cost 25 bucks last week? $35. You know?
Well, that's not profiteering, Dad. That's the invisible hand of the free market, don't you know? The invisible hand of the free market is regulating our economy. That's why they're gouging you.
It's not
It's
murder.
the invisible hand of the
not,
free.
But guys, it's not murder. It's just it's just
Demographic restructuring.
Yeah.
No, it's not murder. It's just intentional manslaughter.
Yeah.
Because squiggly line go down, Dad.
Do we want to move on to workers' action, I guess?
Yes, who wants to start on that?
I can, because I have my article from my org, where we're talking about workers' unification right now. Italian workers are striking under the slogan, "We don't want to die for your profits." Now, my organization is interfering in strikes in Italy, helping them. But these should be like the first signs of an anti-capitalist consciousness that's beginning to arise, thankfully. Now, in Argentina, on the 18th of March, in the grain exporting ports of Yurgara, there has been unrest by workers threatening to strike at this crucial time because they are not guaranteed adequate protection from infection by the virus. In Austria, on the 18th, despite bans, there has been a spontaneous strike and protests by workers in Linz, Binde, Michel, Käferfeld.
Oh, yeah, that's Upper Austria, and the Upper Austrian government, like state government, is like, they're just doing all of the like non-assembly stuff, and they're like, okay, but like we're not going to give you any of your protections. And the federal government is angry at them.
The company was guilty of failing to put workers in a position to operate safely. In Myanmar, 800 workers at the global textile factory in Kampong Speu province have forced management to pay wages and premiums in arrears. The factory has stopped its operations in mid-February due to the virus. Brazil, there's quite a bit. In February, between the 17th and 20th of this month, there has been unrest in prisons, and 1,350 escaped from prisons, especially in Sao Paulo. Workers at the ports of Santos, São Vicente, and Guarujá, and Cubatão. Any Portuguese or Brazilian listeners, I'm sorry for my not understanding of modern Romance languages. Declared the immediate cessation of all activities for the period of quarantine declared by the government of Sao Paulo. The director of the Board of Logistics and Transport replied, "There are several alternatives. The most drastic is the declaration of a state of emergency throughout Sao Paulo to suspend individual rights and strikes. The workers, for their part, declared themselves willing to carry out only essential services." And then employees of Almaviva do Brasil in Consolacao, again, sorry, one of the main call centers in the country with 37,000 employees, have downed tools, stopped all work, and blocked the road. Workers who are sick are not being paid, and what?
People in France have shut down several factories.
Oh yeah, I'm getting to France right now. That's gonna be good. Workers at the Neuhauser bread factory in Volschwille, one of the country's largest bread producers, forced the factory to close for 24 hours after one colleague tested positive. In Lille, the factory of the Canadian railway manufacturer Bombardier de Crespin North is closed until further notice, and all employees working in production have been partially unemployed since Monday. Mind you, unemployment is rising at an unprecedented rate. Even Great Depression wasn't this bad. After an employee tested positive in an Amazon workplace on the 16th, the workers at Montelimar, Chalon-sur-Saône, and Douai sites went on strike, denouncing the lack of safety distancing, the absence of safety devices, and sanitary disinfections. Workers garrisoned themselves in front of the Sévaré site, respecting safety distances. On the 17th, several hundred workers for the Atlantic shipyard in Saint-Nazaire have left their jobs because they have not been guaranteed safe conditions. The shipyards employ a total of over 10,000 workers. 20 employees in the glass business and more than 40 in the decoration business in Savardec went on strike on the 17th and 18th due to failure to adhere to the rules for safeguarding. On the 18th, spontaneous strike by ID logistics employees in Les Harbiers. They are demanding the stay-at-home full wages as a form of prevention. And then Amazon workers in Lille are fighting the non-application of security measures. In Iceland, to protect themselves from infection, bus drivers have been picking up passengers only from the rear and central entrances and not asking for pay for tickets. In Panama, workers of the Minera Panama, over 6,000. After the first cases broke out, the company refused to intervene on safety, where company workers often pile up 6 in one room. In Spain, on the 17th, 1,000 ballet workers in Zaragoza impose a closure against coronavirus, and the ballet management has refused to close down despite the absence of security measures. The Aronova plant in Alava, which employs 450 workers, temporarily suspended activity on Tuesday. The workers demanded the closure of the factory. In Turkey, there's stuff going on, which is in Safar Textile factory, ignored the advice of the trade unions and stopped production for half an hour to protest the fact no action was taken. There was no disinfectant at the entrance, and hygiene conditions in the canteen are poor. Workers in Galataport shipyard in Istanbul started a strike because no measures have been taken. Post and telegraph workers have gone on strike after the regional management of the PTT allowed permanent workers to stay home on Saturday, imposing overtime on almost 200 subcontracted workers. In Canada, workers at Fiat Chrysler's Windsor Assembly Plant in Ontario spontaneously walked out.
No.
Now
Snow Deesh on Suicide Watch,
we get
guys.
to the United States of America. And here's how I like to put it. Americans put up with a lot of shit. All the time. But do you know what happens when an American gets tired of this? They don't give a shit when they get tired of it.
Yeah.
GM, Ford, and FCA factories increasing complaints by workers about poor hygiene and safety conditions at the factory while most managers and employees work from home. The managers of the three large companies have refused to close factories for 2 weeks as of the 17th. Workers temporarily closed a paint shop at Chrysler's Warren Truck Assembly plant near Detroit. Spontaneous on the 18th, spontaneous 24-hour strike by Detroit public transport drivers who were not provided with safety devices or adequate hygiene or the disinfection of vehicles. Transport was suspended throughout the day in the entire city. The unions were forced to cover the strike. Also on the 18th, spontaneous strikes at the Sterling Heights Assembly Plant, SHAP, in Fiat Chrysler, Michigan. After 2 employees tested positive, the factory closed as a result. This is a partial list, and you can go to labornotes.org or leftcom.org to read these things as well. Holy shit. Workers in 3 states are spontaneously striking. This is why the fucking autonomist in Italy said they just took everything they know from the Detroit workers.
Yeah, which it's coming, boys. Like, we are at the fucking brink.
Be ready to start working in councils, fellas. It's time. A new kind of state.
A stateless state.
Yeah.
The state of affairs, if you will.
Now, does anyone else have anything to talk about with workers' action?
I don't know, do I?
Another thing the Italian workers are saying is we are not lambs to the slaughter. They are saying that on the 12th of March, hundreds of factory and companies, hundreds of workers, right? Workers in hundreds of factories and companies went on strike and left workplaces. They're all in non-essential production, and the slogan, "We are not lambs to the slaughter," spread like wildfire. The demand of these workers is, at the very least, that working conditions should be adapted in line with the health shit going on. There's spontaneous strikes in Piedmont, Liguria, Lombardy, Veneto, Emilia-Romagna, Tuscany, Umbria, and Puglia. And this is all not in connection to a union. That's the big thing. It's not connected to a union.
Yeah, like, this is hard to explain. Yeah.
Like, that's the thing. Unions are usually responsible because unions are the only people who give a shit. Now the general public has decided, fuck this, we're striking too.
And they're also saying, also, the rent strike is coming up in a couple days. Don't pay your rent. Next Wednesday is the rent strike. Be ready.
How is that looking, by the way? Just a question.
It's international now.
Interesting, because I've seen a bunch of people on Twitter be like really weirdly salty about it.
What do you mean?
Like, people are like going on these rants where it's like, oh, you need to organize this better. This is not gonna happen. Something.
The only piece of advice I say is if you're a solo tenant, don't involve yourself with it.
Yeah.
Because there's no numbers in one. If you're in like a larger thing, then yeah, do it. And, like, absolutely do it then.
I mean, so this is the other thing, like, you know, the landlords were like complaining about these, oh, rent stop, this is insanity. This is happening to protect them by the government.
Right. So in Austin, Chicago, and New York, it's popular with cancel rent and rent strike trending on Twitter. Also, earlier this week, the hashtag general strike was trending in the United States of America.
In Texas, no less.
Yes, it's happening.
Fascinating. Truly fascinating.
Yeah. Go to have those people fucking unionize, like as in like a tenants union. It's time, fellas. People need to not pay their rent. Now, anyone else have anything to talk about workers action that's going on? Is there anything going on in Australia, Peter?
Not really. Like, Australians are handling like Australians always do. Bitching and complaining about it, but ultimately doing what the government says.
Now then,
Pretty standard thing.
This is interesting. Have we gotten to blaming the natives yet? Because that's usually something that.
Oh no, it's blaming the Chinese.
Ah, of course. That's maybe something we should talk about as well. The like fucking horrific racism that has come out of this shit.
Oh my god. It's insane. Like, the funny thing is a broken clock is right twice a day. It's so bad that TPUSA came out about it.
Yeah.
And they condemned the racism. Like, how racist do you have to be?
Jesus Christ.
How racist do you have to be that Turning Point USA has to call you racist?
Oh my god, this is fucking. Like, I honestly, I'm fucking, like, speechless. I don't even know what the fuck to say.
How much of a fucking vile piece of shit do you have to be for fucking Charlie Kirk to talk about it? I mean, mind you, he's still calling it the China virus on Twitter, but, like, I think that the UK one's even doing it too, which is also surprising.
Yeah, it's
Turning Point, United Kingdom, that bastion of free thought.
Fuck me.
But yeah, fellas.
The kicking off.
Shit's happening.
The kick off.
Mind you, okay, I go to the Asian market quite a bit because, like, I speak Mandarin, so I love fucking going to go get food there because it's fucking amazing, right? I haven't seen another white person in there since this happened.
I mean, all of our restaurants have closed for the moment. So
well, it's a market though, so they're. Like,
oh yeah.
I go there and get like mushrooms and all kinds of food there because, like, not only is food from China and Taiwan and South Korea fucking amazing, it's perfect for the college student because it's pretty easy and cheap as fuck. Like, when I go there to comment on it, in South Korea, I think they've engineered a thing where they make Michelin star, like, instant ramen, and it's only like $1 a packet. And by $1 a packet, I mean like the big packet of like 6 of like the smaller bits. That being said, you know, just don't be a cunt. Just don't be a cunt. That's it.
That's generally good advice, yeah.
Don't be like...
That's Australia's golden rule.
Yeah. Unless you're Jim Saliam, yeah. Fucking Jim Saliam. Dr. Natbol at centerlink.au. He's actually... That was his email. His actual email.
Oh my god.
He also, like, praises George Lincoln Rockwell, the fucking founder of the American Nazi Party.
That's funny.
Jim Saliam, okay, to any Australian listeners, because we have a lot of those, I guess, because of how much of our group is Australian. If you see Jim Saliam in public,
Punch him.
beat the shit out of him intellectually.
Intellectually. It's not like that's hard.
It's not. He did call George Lincoln Rockwell the new Jesus. He said the swastika was Hitler's cross.
Well, I suppose it is a kind of cross.
God. This is
I
what
mean,
I
the German
learned.
term for it is hook cross.
This is what I learned in my research, by the way, that Jim Salim was more of a Nazi than I already thought he was. Now, let's move on to Theo's topic of Turkey being Turkey.
The Turkish military is now rounding up civilians in eastern Turkey. And by when I say civilians, I mean people of ethnic minorities, obviously. Who else?
The non-Turks.
Yeah, basically, well, that and, like, the lower classes of, like, rural Turks, because they're considered, disloyal elements, to quote the actual government. Shit's fucked. Sadly, still media blackout. We don't know shit. We just know that it's happening. We know that, like, several, like, Kurdish communities in places like Diyarbakir have been, like, basically burned to the ground. Like, sending in military police and fucking pulling people out of their homes and then either shipping them off to God knows where, or in one case, even just straight up executing them on the spot, fucking
Death to
Anto's
Erdogan.
style. Yeah.
Just turkey things.
Just turkey things, yeah. Now, EML does not advocate violence, but
Well, the thing about destroying the Erdogan regime is that it just prevents violence, so...
it literally prevents genocide. By EML does not advocate violence, we mean as a preventative measure, Erdogan should be fucking shot.
Yeah, it's bad. Then in Syria, he's just getting demolished right now. Because when isn't he? He, like, there was like a skirmish between him and between his forces and some SDF forces in, like, northeastern Syria again.
Oh yeah, it's going on right now quite a lot.
Yeah. So, like, so he sent in at least 3 battalions. We know for a fact that after, I think, 14 hours, one of those battalions is no longer combat effective.
But
Because apparently they, like, moved into, like, these... They basically this time said, fuck the roads, we're just driving over fucking open land, and then the Kurds just shot at them with their shit ton of anti-tank weapons, and suddenly the Turkish military is losing a whole lot of vehicles. Because they just suck at war. They just, like, I mean, Erdogan, he just sucks in general. But, yeah.
God.
Yeah. So, fuck Erdogan, fuck the Turkish state. They're literal genocidal maniacs.
And this
The
is
actual
why
genocide.
refusing that your people did genocide is very dangerous. And to all the Stalinists that ever watch this, because I'm going to make you leave eventually, because I am Lefkom Burger.
Leftcom burger.
Reminder that the Soviets
Olga.
in the 1930s killed 60% of Sami men in the Murmansk province in northwestern USSR.
Oh, but you see, material conditions, superstructure,
Don't act like they use the word superstructure. I don't know what that is. And he
Yeah,
goes,
but they use it.
oh,
No, they do use it.
They
just
think
throw it out as a buzzword.
they think of superstructure as the superstructure influences the base, not the other way around. Because if it weren't, they wouldn't literally be making a fucking like a triangle with the fucking top of it being red and the bottom of it just being capitalism. Read literally read Lenin and you'll understand that Stalin was a Proudhonian. This is why I call them state Proudhonists on Twitter.
Oh, that gets them so mad. You should
does.
do it.
It does because
You should do it.
I do all the time. I fucking
Yeah, I'm talking to chat.
yeah. Call
Just,
them
do it.
state Proudhonians. Make my insults go further. Insurrectionary Lassallean. Revolutionary Social Democrat.
Well, that's very generous. Revolutionary. I don't know about that.
Revolution in the common term of just
Just smash things. Just destroy things.
Coup-based Social Democrats.
Oh yeah. I always called them
Regime change Social Democrats. How about that?
They're like this is why so many, we all know where the neocons came from.
Watch the video I did earlier this week from Raskolnikov where he literally calls Stalin a fascist collaborator in 1937. Let's not forget that the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact was the backup plan to the original Moscow-Berlin Axis talks.
Mm-hmm.
Because they definitely weren't going to ally at the beginning. It's not like they were already planning on allying, but that part fell through. Yeah, Blankist sucked them. Tiger Pussy's right in the chat. Blankist sucked them.
That's, yeah.
I started calling them Blankists on Twitter. Like, my insults have gone up.
That gets them even more angry.
Yeah.
I've met an unironic Blankist a few weeks ago.
Substitutionalist sucked them.
Oh, fuck. Funny.
They choose to believe the other 3-letter abbreviated state fucking media thing. Instead of the CIA, it's the KGB. The official stance of DipDap is the Soviet Union stopped being a DOTP in 1921. Read Lenin.
Dictatorship of the proletariat.
I don't know why Stalinists think that DOTP and socialism are the same thing. Lenin quite literally says like the exact opposite in economics and politics in the era of the DOTP. Well, I know why they don't read him, but
yeah, you're not wrong.
DipDap. Well, I'm just gonna start reading things on here so people will actually understand where I'm coming from. Upcoming video, probably The Mass Strike by Rosa Luxemburg. And I'm still in the editing phase of the fascism video.
Hey,
I really want to watch the fascism video because it's gonna be funny.
Have I told you about... we can talk about this after the stream. Don't worry about it.
Alright. Well, I guess we've been going for an hour and 10 minutes almost. Anyone have any closing statements?
Fuck the state. Fuck capitalism. Fuck fuck your partners.
Fuck your landlord. Don't pay rent. Establish a workers' council.
Viva Posadas, long live Comrade.
The idea of a party being over the people is substitutionalist and anti-communist. Thank you very much for coming to my TED Talk.
Ooh, that's something I could send you about.
So
Kirk did a thing about that. Called the party in class.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So we will all see you next week, where hopefully the line has gone further down.